guys, Natasha here. Today's video is going to be really quick. I just wanted to talk about genetic testing, and that was something that I did have done after my breast cancer diagnosis. So for those of you guys that don't know, there are two genes that are susceptible to breast cancer, and those genes are BRCA1 and BRCA2. And after we had met with my doctor a couple of times, my general surgeon, who technically is, so he's my general surgeon because he's the one who removed the tumor, but he was also the radiologist who took me seriously and had scheduled me and did my second ultrasound to look at the mass that was in my right breast. And he's also my unofficial therapist, but not really. But yeah, so he suggested that I have a genetic test done, and he had asked, he said, does breast cancer or cancer in general run in your family? And my answer was no, based on the knowledge that I have. But the reality is, it's, as we all know, it's very possible that maybe someone could have had breast cancer and it was never shared. And so, but again, based on my knowledge, from what I know, I'm the only person who's ever had breast cancer specifically. So he said, okay, let's do a genetic test and let's see if you will be positive for the BRCA1 or BRCA2 gene. Again, those are the two genes that are susceptible to breast cancer. And anyone who tests positive for those genes, and I'm not sure if it's either or both of those genes, are much more likely to end up or to develop breast cancer, ovarian cancer, pancreatic cancer, prostate cancer, and even melanoma cancer, which is something that I never knew. So anyway, they took the blood. They took blood samples. They ran the test. I want to say it took maybe about a week or two. I don't remember how long it was, but they took the blood samples, and they also did like a genogram or like a family tree and asking me questions. And it was interesting because when it came to my dad's side, I knew nada. And that's a whole nother story, but I knew nada. I could barely answer anything. When it came to my mom's side of the family, I was able to answer some things. So I thought that was pretty interesting that they don't only just look at blood type, but they're also doing this family tree with you to really kind of get a better, more concrete and, intricate picture of your family history. So again, after I got the results, guys, my results were negative. However, my doctor explained that negative is not necessarily a concrete response for everyone, because the test that's specifically done doesn't always detect, or actually doesn't often detect, other genetic mutations outside of the BRCA1 and the BRCA2. And if my memory serves me correctly, from conversations with my doctor and from articles that I've read, they are currently or have been working on expanding the the pool of genes that they look at when they do genetic testing for cancers. So that would be awesome for them to look beyond BRCA1 and BRCA2, because there are a lot of people like myself who develop breast cancer and are negative for those BRCA genes, but there is still a genetic mutation. They're just not really able to narrow it down. So I was happy to hear that it was negative, but for me, it really didn't mean anything or do anything, because at the end of the day, I still developed breast cancer. And there are many women out there who will and have developed breast cancer because there is another genetic mutation happening. My doctor, one of the ways that my doctor explained it is, he said oftentimes when women come, or the theory and the scientific understanding is that the women who come back negative for the BRCA1 and BRCA2, at some point while they were in the gene, there was a genetic mutation that occurred, and that slowly over time, it leads to breast cancer. So basically what he was saying, and he said it both in an exploratory way as well as a candid way, I was going to develop breast cancer regardless. Like, it was inevitable, it was going to happen. And if I'm going to be honest, that kind of put me at ease in the sense of, and I don't know, some people watching this might be like, oh, don't say this, this is not, it means you're not faithful or whatever. But I almost feel like if this is indeed the case, then I was meant to go on this journey. This is a part of my story. There was no beating around it. There was no overstepping it. It was going to happen, whether it was going to happen at 18 or whether it was going to happen at 40 or 29 when it happened, or today as I'm 32. I was going to have breast cancer. I was going to have to deal with it. I was going to have to go through this journey. So one of the other things that I learned is those who don't test positive for the BRCA gene are actually still at average risk. So those who do test positive are at higher risk. Those who don't test positive are at average risk. So not at low risk, right? So that's kind of significant. Just because you don't test positive for BRCA1 or BRCA2 doesn't mean you have a lower chance of developing breast cancer. You have an average chance of developing a breast cancer because there are so many other factors involved, and it's beyond, you know, blood tests and things like that. So was the genetic test covered by my health insurance? And yes and no. So when my doctor first billed for it, they denied it. They actually sent me the denial, and I remember getting the bill and it was like $2,782.24. And I was like, I'm not paying for that. There's no way. So anyway, I let the doctor know that it was denied, and I don't know what he did. He obviously must have put a spin on it, or explained the need better. And so it was finally covered by my insurance, and I did not have to pay anything for it out of pocket. I don't think so. I have really good insurance through my place of employment. If I did have to pay for it, I probably didn't pay more than like $150. But I don't think, I've had so many bills to pay, it's all a blur, but I really don't actually think I came out of pocket for the genetic testing. So that's basically it for today's video. Just wanted to provide some education on genetic testing, what the BRCA1, BRCA2 gene is. Again, these are the genes that are susceptible for cancer. It's a blood test that they test to see if you're positive or negative. Being negative doesn't mean you're at low risk. It means you're at average risk, and being positive means you're at a much higher risk. But those are not the only factors that play into developing breast cancer. So just want to, again, guys, if you guys have any questions, please drop your questions below. If you've been recently diagnosed or know someone who was recently diagnosed, or you're going through the whole journey for a while now, please comment below and let me know how things are going. If you have any thoughts or questions or ideas, I'm more than welcome. Talk to you guys next time.